We have a joint hearing with the Board of Public Works and the Town Council on a citizen's petition from lead petitioner Mark Gould. I will take. Do you guys need to actually open your meeting?
Yes.
Yes, we
I'll
do.
let you open your meeting, Mr. Thompson.
Make a motion to open the meeting of the Board of Public Works and the Town Council.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
All right, so Mr. Simmons.
Town of North Attleboro Town Council and Board of Public Works, public hearing on citizens petition, March 10th, 2025. The Town Council and the Board of Public Works will hold a joint public hearing in the Joanne Cathcart Conference Room in the Town Hall located at 43 South Washington Street on Monday, March 10th, 2025 at 7 p.m. on the following public hearing. A citizen's petition has been submitted by Town Councilor Mark Gould to North Attleboro's Town Council to hold a public hearing and take action on said petition as follows. Petition to inform community on town water condition and remediation efforts. We petition the North Attleboro Town Council to hold a public hearing and DPW to present to the council and the public an update and written report on the condition of the water, steps being taken and progress being made to bring the water in compliance with the federal EPA regulations of 4 parts per trillion of PFAS. Further, that DPW present a written quarterly report and quarterly public update to the council until the water is certified to be in compliance with the federal standard of 4 parts per trillion of PFAS. I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion for Mr. Simmons, second for Ms. St. Pierre to open the public hearing. Roll call vote. Ms. St. Pierre.
Aye.
Mr. Costello.
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Shanahan.
Aye.
Mr. Logan.
Aye.
Mr. Donovan.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Perriman, aye. Mr. Simmons.
Aye.
That motion passes 8-0. The public hearing is open. Assuming Mr. Hollowell, would you care to address the council on this public hearing?
Do they have to vote for open the whole again?
They should open their,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Why don't you guys open your public hearing, I guess?
Motion up to open the public hearing.
yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. We're open.
All right.
It's supposed to be roll call, but that's okay.
Do the chair.
I'll do it. Mr. Thompson?
Yeah.
Mr. Stone? Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Ronaldi?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
There we go.
All right.
Back on track.
We're open.
Do you want to go to the lead petitioner first?
I could, whatever you want to do, I could just ask questions after he's done, or,
I assume the expert would be the one. It's for, the petition was around asking the
Sounds good.
DPW director to give
I
a
can say, yeah.
presentation. So.
Good evening, everyone. Town Council, appreciate the opportunity to be here. Since 2020, North Attleboro tested and found positive PFAS in our drinking water. It was part of a program through the DEP. We were actually early testing. It was grant money that was funded through the DEP, and we did testing in October and November. In December of 2020, we found out that we had 2 locations. The McEwen treatment plant, actually the Adamsdale well was over the 20 parts per trillion, the new regulation by the DEP, and the DEP regulation required that the town address that. Some towns addressed it differently. Many towns had it over 20 parts per trillion. Some towns took the track that we did, and we started design and construction to abate that. Other towns just shut off the well because they didn't want to deal with it. There are many towns out there who still have wells shut off, and there were a number of towns that had below 20 parts per trillion, but just below. Town of Bellingham, 18. Rentham, where I live, 10. Attleboro had 1 that was over. They shut the plant off. You might have read in the news they turned it back on when they were having their water problems. It was over 20, but it's now down to 19. Being over 20 parts per trillion, the requirement was 1, you had to start addressing it, and 2, that you had to provide a PFAS-free water for 4 sensitive subgroups: people with compromised immune systems, nursing mothers, pregnant mothers, and infants under the age of 1. There was no regulation for any other person to have to stop drinking the water. The regulation is 20 parts per trillion. That is literally 2 drops of water in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. This is something like lead, which was banned in the water in 1986 and is still in the water now. Not in our water, it's actually in your homes. But it's something that they put a new regulation in place, and there's a process for the different public drinking water suppliers to enact. So we started off, we did the Adamsdale well. This was during COVID period. It was very challenging. We had supply chain issues. That project took much longer than we anticipated. And we had, where's my cost? That's not it. Hold on, get everything ready. What'd you do? Oh, you have it. Adamsdale, the estimate was $5.2 million. The actual bid came in at $4.541 million. We actually were part of a new DEP program because they enacted this and they got a lot of money from the prior administration in order to do construction projects. And we actually received $1.435 million in loan forgiveness. We also received 0% interest on the loan, which saved us $665,000 over the life of the loan. And we got a grant for $150,000 to start the kiosk and run it for the first 2 years that we had it in place. We weren't sure how long we were going to have it in place. While this was all happening, which, by the way, we started in January of 2021 with the design contract. We were out to bid in September of 2021. So it was a very short period of time before we were actually out to bid with a $5.5 million construction project. In the interim, the McEwen well had tested positive, over 20 parts per trillion. They were just over, they were at about 24 parts per trillion. Because of our water supply, that was one of our larger plants at 2 million gallons a day, we were unable to shut that down, which is why we were required to give residents quarterly notification as long as we were not meeting the DEP standard. So we started doing that, and once we were out to bid for construction for the Adamsdale well, we started design for the McEwen well. That design estimate was $10 million. We ended up putting that out to construction just as Adamsdale was, construction was being completed, and that project came in at about $7.2 million. We got about $2.29 million in loan forgiveness. We actually received a federal earmark from Congressman Auchincloss for $959,000, and we saved $856,000 in change in the 0% loan that we got. And this is only because we started from go to do the design and construction of these two plants. As I mentioned, there's a lot of other places that just shut their well off or blended or did other things to get under the 20, but there's still most of them between 10 and 20 parts per trillion. So now we do a monthly report. It's up on my page every month. I have a web page. People should read it, where we report every month. So since we've been reporting, in January of last year, McEwen actually fell below the 20 parts per trillion, has never gone back over that. So we were below. Now it's 0 because our PFAS treatment is online, and it's non-detect, which actually means it's below 3 parts per trillion because that's the lowest level of detection. Right now, we're starting design for the Hillman well because the EPA in May of 2024 enacted a new regulation for all water treatment suppliers to have PFAS below 4 parts per trillion within 5 years. There is no regulation that says that it's not to be used by any sensitive subgroups. They're just putting a mandate on it to be completed by 2029. So we're working on Hillman well this year. We'll probably put it out to bid next year, next fiscal year. And then while that's out for construction, we'll start on the Whiting treatment plant well design. If everyone can look up on the screen, you can see the first two projects. We ended up having a total project cost of just over $12 million. And with the loan forgiveness and the grants and the 0 interest, we ended up spending only about $7.3 million that'll be in loans. So we'll be paying that at 0% interest over the next 20 years. We had a meeting with Congressman Auchincloss a couple weeks ago. One of the things that was brought up was PFAS and our concerns about the costs for everybody. And he was emphatic. There's no more money out there for PFAS. Because unlike us, who started early and there was money available for it, now everyone has to address PFAS over the next 5 years. So they either give everybody money, which they're not going to do, or they'll give nobody money. So looking at our projects moving forward, Hillman, it's about the same size as Adamsdale, but about 4 years down the road. We're anticipating that to be about $7.2 $7 million in design and construction. 4% interest, which is what we're looking at right now for municipal bonding, would be another $3.18 million, putting the project over $10 million. And then Whiting Street, which is the most challenging because of our footprint, would be about $12.5 million with an interest of possibly $5 million in interest over the 20 years, making our next round of projects at $28 million. So while we have a long way to go, it is very good that we started early, and we got a lot of help from the DEP and a lot of help from Congressman Auchincloss and our state representatives to get these first two projects done in time. Looking at where we are now, right now, looking at our February results, Whiting Street was 11.7 parts per trillion, and Hillman Well was at about 14. And they've been bouncing around somewhere between 11 and 15 parts per trillion since we've started testing back in 2020. So those are pretty regular. They don't much go over it. But looking at PFAS, and I know a lot of residents are concerned about it, PFAS is it's a forever chemical. It gets into the drinking water. It's very challenging to get out. This is why we have these granular activated carbon systems are just enormous. We had to build buildings around them. But they're lifetime. They're over a lifetime. They're like lead in the drinking water. Again, they banned lead in 1986 in the drinking water under the Safe Drinking Water Act. And then in 2014, they banned it from brass. So now we have no lead brass, but it took them all the way to get up there. And now finally, you guys probably saw in October, we sent out a notice to everyone because they enacted an amended lead and copper rule, the EPA, that says we need to come up with a website that tells residents whether or not you have lead. So we are going around to every home that we don't know whether you not have lead. And I don't care if your home was built in 2012. If we don't have a good record of it, we're going to inspect your home or dig at the street in order to get that. And so within the next probably 6 months, we're going to know every lead service in town. And then we have 5 years to get them out. And working with my board, our plan is to get lead out, whether it's on the town side or the homeowner side. But then you all need to know, most of the lead is actually in your house. If your house was built before 1986, probably has lead solder, and a lot of the houses before the 70s probably have some lead joints in them, and possibly lead within the home. We're not responsible for that. The homeowners are. But here's the good thing. If you get up in the morning and run your cold water at your sink for 20, 30 seconds before you drink it, most of the lead that leaches into your pipe overnight goes out. So, but that's sort of what PFAS is. It's a chemical that's in the drinking water, but it's something that takes a whole lifetime. And it's been in the drinking water for decades, our drinking water. It comes from firefighting foam primarily, but it's also in the cups that you have at your store that has a soup in it. Anything that's non-stick, French fry containers, popcorn, the inside of a popcorn bag, that all has PFAS in it, that all gets ingested by people in microscopic amounts. And they're just, the federal government is just working on ways to get it out. Again, I mentioned they passed the regulation in May of 2024. The EPA has an anti-sliding rule, so that regulation is probably not going to go away. I know there's been changes in the administration about changes to the PFAS regulations. Those regulations are about the people who are putting the PFAS in the groundwater to begin with. Those people still get to put it in their drinking water because they put a pause on that, but we are still required to get it out. So within 5 years, we will have that removed, and the EPA and DEP are not saying people can't drink the water and it's not safe to drink. The people who, the DEP and EPA are saying they want municipalities to start working towards taking care of this problem sooner rather than later. And the one good thing I will say about this, although it's going to be very expensive and it's probably going to cost me another couple $100,000 a year, just as these things phase out and I have to replace the carbon, and I don't know where PFAS-filled carbon is going to go. We're still working on that. But the good thing is there are hundreds of unregulated contaminants in our drinking water, just hundreds. Every 3 or 4 years, we do, it's called UCMR. We're on UCMR 5. That's unregulated contaminant testing. Every municipal drinking water system has to test for these chemicals. back in 2013 or 14, we did it for PFAS. We did it at 50 parts per billion because there was a lawsuit going on between some towns that were around 3M plants, and they were at 40 to 50 parts per billion. So that's what they had us test at. Everybody missed a boat on that. Nobody had it around here at 50 parts per billion, and we were all happy. And then the EPA started looking at it more and saying, you know what, over a lifetime, we really should get down to 70 parts per trillion. And then they looked at it again and said, you know what, we're going to go all the way down to 4. But the difference between the people who were actually getting sick in Ohio and Mason County, West Virginia, they lived around a 3M plant. The PFAS in the drinking water was 40 to 50 parts per billion. That is 40 to 50,000 times higher than what's in our drinking water. Just so people know, it's not this, you know, E. coli or some other poison. And I've said it before at these meetings, so I'll say it again. I put poison in your drinking water every day. Chlorine is a poison. Fluoride's a poison. Potassium hydroxide's a poison. If you drink enough of it, and you've seen it with marathon runners, water's a poison.
That's my next Facebook.
So we dose per the DEP. You know, we have a very good relationship with the DEP and EPA, and our drinking water is safe, and we're working very hard towards getting these things done. We are still going to try to get whatever grants, loans, and free money we can get out of anybody. But I'm just here to let everyone know it's probably going to be a little bit tougher as we move forward, and everyone's jumping into our boat. I'll take questions.
Mr. Thompson, did you have anything you want to add for the Board of Public Works?
No, I'll wait for some of the questions. We've been working crazy on this thing, trying to get every dime that we can get and get everything as fixed as we can. And like most of you, I grew up here in North Attleboro too, so I've been drinking the water since I was a pup. And I don't have a third eye. I don't have any other strange things going on. You know, I say a few strange things, but that's about it. Other than that,
Thank you.
I feel pretty darn good.
Other members of the public who wish to address the council and the Board of Public Works this evening? Sir, if you don't mind, please step forward. Have a seat up there and state your name, and
It's Charles Deshane, 22 Norton Road.
could you please step up to a microphone so that North TV can hear you? And thank you.
I'm old, you know, it takes a while.
Take your time. Take your time.
We're all getting there.
You can have a seat too. You don't have to stand. It's up to you.
Oh, no, not even ingratiating. Thank you very much. I'm not that bad. I'm curious, Mark, about the fluctuation in testing. How many tests does a test consist of? Is it literally one sample?
We sample monthly.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, when you physically take a sample of water for testing purposes, do you run a routine that involves several different separate tests and come up with an average and a standard deviation and all that kind
No,
of stuff?
we do one test and one blank per site.
Okay.
That's the requirement of the DEP.
All right, so does the state or the EPA give you any guidance in terms of what fluctuation you should expect?
It started out with, it doesn't fluctuate, and then we found out very quickly it does. And for some communities, as you get closer to that lower earmark of the testing limits, give you an example, the town of Needham is right around 3 parts per trillion. And their fear is, just because of the wavering, because of the limited technology, that they might just get, you know, my guys that really have to like they're going into a surgery when they take these things, because you don't want anything to disrupt it.
Right.
But there is fluctuation. We've seen it, and you can see it. Again, I have monthly reports going back to 2020 on my website, which again, everyone should go to. And the fluctuation is typically between, 3 and 4 parts per trillion. And
So I'm sorry, not to interrupt you, but I didn't want to make that big a deal out of it. What's driving my question is, what's the likelihood that we would see fluctuation in excess of the limit and then under, that kind of thing, just because the bloody test is not that accurate?
Right. For the DEP regulation, I don't think we will, because we've never tested, we're not even close. For the EPA down at 4, unless the testing gets better, that's the fear that all of us have.
Yeah,
That
okay.
Because I don't know if Hillman is at 3 or 0.
Right, so
Or-
the money, the implications of money and cost to the town, it's not insignificant in that respect.
So to put in another guide, in 2008, I got a new regulation for my wastewater plant. I went from 1 part per million of phosphorus to 0.1. At the time, 0.1 was the limit of technology. It cost me $27.3 million to get down to 0.1. They just knocked on my door 2 months ago and said, hey, you know what? The limit of technology is down to 0.2. You got to get to 0.2. So everything I did, not everything, but probably $4 million worth of what I did is getting thrown in the trash. We're going to have to do it again.
Right. Okay, I appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you. Other members, please. You can't have a seat. That's usually where people.
I'll stand, it
people
feels
sit.
good. Audrey Burton, Burns Circle in North Attleboro. Back to your question about lead pipes. When we first got the notice, we automatically called, and we have copper pipe in our cellar for our water. I have no idea what kind of piping we have outside. The house was built in 74/75.
Yep. So, I'm not going to answer you specifically.
No, that's okay.
We have a website that if we don't know, you're a certain color. And if it's on the town side, it's one color. If it's on your side, we probably know the town side, and it's probably copper. We were big into copper after the 50s. But you can go on the website, and if not, you can call, and we can pull your card to see if it's on your card.
Okay.
Like I said, we're working through that now. Like almost every day, we have people going through all of our paperwork, which there's lots of. And whatever we don't definitively know, we will be sending out a nicer notice than the one that DEP made me send you.
That first notice was fine. We appreciated it very much.
It panicked a lot of people as the DEP.
No, it didn't panic us. We just picked up the phone and called and said, hey, help us.
But we likely recorded your copper, but if you go online and look on our website, then you'll definitively know. And if we didn't, then you can call back and
Check
correct
the
it.
outside piping. Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. Mark, you've referenced, Mr. Hollowell, you've referenced your website a few times tonight. What's the website? Do you know it off the top of your head?
So the DPW, can you find the website? Can you get on
Yeah,
it?
can you just pull it up on the
Or can
screen?
someone to let us know, during the meeting?
It's on the town website.
So,
Yeah, that-
Click through the town website.
Yeah,
Click through the
so if you go to
town
the Department of Public Works webpage, on the lower left-hand side, you'll see water quality, PFAS, and other information. And if you open that up, it's pretty much all PFAS for the last 4 years. And I give a monthly update on what's going on. You should read it. And also this month, I found the University of Massachusetts Amherst and the DEP did a collaboration to look at 40 of the top home water purifiers, both under sink, whole house, the ones that you put in your little fridge there. And they only found 3 that meet the EPA's 4 parts per trillion. One of them is $33 on Amazon. So there's that. But if you go to the bottom of down there, right there, water quality, PFAS and other information. I should have
Right
done a
there.
nice little note for everybody tonight. I didn't know we were going to do this.
You got it, go.
yeah,
Okay.
that was the point of my question. That helps. If folks want to see this report,
Yeah, and if you scroll down, there's just lots and lots of information on there. There's our approval from the DEP with all the drinking water in there, because we did hundreds of tests. When you put any new source online, the DEP makes you do hundreds of tests. And then we actually have to test for lead and copper at 60 sites for the next 3 years, just to make sure any change that we make, even though we know adding carbon won't do that, doesn't affect our drinking water system. So Mass DEP is very proactive in making sure that any changes we make to our system doesn't affect the system.
I have a question.
before we open it up for councilor questions, I'll maintain the public's opportunity to speak, and then we'll close the public hearing, and then we'll have councilors can ask their questions. Sorry, Ms. St. Pierre. Are there any other members of the public who wish to address us? Please step forward.
I had just hopefully a simple question.
If you don't mind, introduce yourself to the audience, please.
Pardon me?
Could you please state your name?
John Angelo Santo, Kelly Boulevard.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, in the system that we have, it's a network of all, the way I understand it, all the wells are tied together.
Yes, we have main trunk lines that feed our tanks, and then those tanks sort of disperse back out into the town. But if you are down on Kelly Boulevard and you're down near the Kelly Well, as it's coming through, most of it's coming out to you. You know, we do have tie-overs on them in many areas.
Right, but there's no guarantee. I mean, it's all mixing
It
in
is
that
blended.
system.
Right.
Yeah, okay. That's all I wanted to know.
there's no other members of the public who wish to address the council and the Board of Public Works this evening, I'll open it up to, I'll actually request the public hearing be closed. Take a motion.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
A motion from Mr. Simmons, a second from Mr. Costello. This will be a roll call vote. Ms. St. Pierre?
Aye.
Mr. Costello?
Aye.
Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Mr. Shanahan?
Aye.
Mr. Logan?
Aye.
Mr. Donovan?
Aye.
Aye, just I'm an aye. Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
That motion passes 8-0. That public hearing is closed.
Before we close our public hearing, I want to know if, after we close the public hearing, that if the Board of Public Works can also join in the discussion with the council.
Yes.
About PFAS.
Of course, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, they go first, then we go, and you guys are us tonight, so we're all together. Yeah.
Roll call, Mr. Dunning?
Yes.
Mr. Nolly?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
We're good.
All right, so the public hearings are now closed, and now it's open for Counselor and Board of Public Works discussion. If you don't mind, I'll facilitate. Sure. That's okay, and we can go. Mr. Gould, you had your hand up.
Thank you. Then thank you, Mr. Hollowell. I have, the reason I asked for this to be on the agenda is when I was collecting signatures, this is the thing that people told me they were interested in, our water. You're shutting down the kiosk. Is the water clean? I'm getting notices in the paper, in the mail. People don't have it clear in their minds. This helps me, and so I thank you for putting this on. And to be clear, I have full confidence in the DPW. I think they're doing a phenomenal job leading the way in the Commonwealth. I just like to keep tabs on what's going on, as I think everyone cares about our water. So just to recap, make sure I'm understanding this. Adamsdale, McKeon are done.
Correct.
Hillman and Whiting are left. So we're 50% done.
Yep.
And it's going to be about 20 million, 28 million with interest.
If we're paying standard.
If we don't
interest
get
on it. If we get
grants.
SRF loans, the SRF loans are capped at 2%, but
With
everyone.
a potential forgivable amount.
But if, 40% of the towns in the Commonwealth are all going to have to do the same projects within 5 years, SRF will, instead of being a specialized project that they were pushing, it'll now just be like all their other projects, and SRF is very competitive.
So there's Hillman and Whiting. Are we going to do both at the same time or one at a time?
No, one at a time.
Which one first?
Hillman is under design now,
Who's the designer?
Wooded and Curran.
How much are we paying them?
We're in preliminary design right now, so I think the last two projects were probably about $500,000 total. So Hillman, I expect, will be probably $300,000 design, maybe more.
And how long is that step going to take?
Probably through September. We have some challenges there because the existing site, unlike Adamsdale and McEwen, we could just go right next to it and do it. We actually have to go up the hill and build an entirely new system and bring all my chemicals and everything up to that new system, which we didn't have to do with the other two plants.
So it's a more difficult design.
Yeah, it's a little bit further along in
Are
design.
Wood and Curran going to do the construction, or they're just the design?
They designed, put out to bid, we put out to competitive bid, and it gets constructed by whoever the lowest qualified bidder
So
is.
RFP in the fall
Hopefully, yes.
for the full deal, the whole shebang, the person that's going to
Yeah.
finish Hillman, we'll find out in the fall.
Right. So the process will be, and this has been the process with the other ones, that we do the design, we get the design done, and then we come back knowing what the money is and whether or not we're going to have SRF, because it changes the way we word the measure. We'd come back for the money in a measure sometime, hopefully in September.
And
or
then
so.
your board votes and our council votes once the money's decided?
No, so typically, and we have meetings a couple times a month usually, you should come. We update the board, and then anytime we're doing a capital project, it gets reviewed by the Board of Public Works along with how that's going to affect the rates. Because the Board of Public Works purview is to oversee, one of their purviews is to oversee the rates of the town. That's why these type of projects fall under their purview, because every $1 million is about $60,000 a year in debt. So, when you have $7 million, you're adding hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to our budget.
So you vote, we don't vote.
No, you vote.
The money.
It's part of the capital
It's part of the,
fund.
it's capital.
Okay.
It's an
We both
offshoot of the
vote.
capital
Okay.
because the timing of it comes in, and I can't wait for the next capital round to come in. So we've done them out of order somewhat.
Okay, thank you. Long story short,
Other counselors, or just to give other folks a chance, then you can ask more questions after. Does anybody else like to ask a question right now on this topic or speak? Mr. Costello?
I think this has been brought up before, but if you could just tell us, what would be the feasibility of perhaps providing a one-time notice, perhaps even on the water bill, that the water is safe to drink?
We actually have a notice, Councilor Pare brought up the next meeting, and we got together with Taylor, and we put together a notice that we put up on our website, and it was supposed to go out like 3 weeks ago, but apparently there's issues with how postage works around here, so it kind of got kicked back, and I had to buy postage separately for whatever it is, the post office doesn't like to give out postage. So that took a few days. So that is
Okay.
supposedly out now, so the residents should be getting the next
Okay.
few
Good.
days,
Good.
if you haven't already, but I did take that advice, and it did cost me another $5,000.
Mark, that was because that's funded through an enterprise fund, and we had to bring it over
Right.
to be able to fund it.
You can charge Costello for it.
Yeah.
If I also
No,
may-
it's a good, I mean, one of the things about Public Works is we just kind of do our thing and then move along with it. But I understand and appreciate very much so that this is a concern to people. We do tell people, and I've had the message board up at the kiosk for a month for people to come in and talk to us. I'm always very good about sitting down and talking to residents or talking to them on the phone if they have issues with the drinking water or anything else. We have a very strong open door policy for residents to come in and sit down and talk to us. So, but that notice is going out. Hopefully this week it'll hit people's mailboxes. And then, as I said, we're required to continue to update sampling and other things while we go through the process over the next 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Ms. St. Clair, hand it over there.
What is the responsibility of the DPW for the people that are tied into another town?
The other town, so City of Attleboro was one, as I mentioned, City of Attleboro was below the 20 parts per trillion, but they went above before. So once you go above, you can't say, oh, I'm below now. That's why even though I've been below for a year, I had to keep going with those two projects. So they have a drinking water supply at their facility that residents can go to. But they are below 20 parts per trillion now and have been since they've turned the Wading River back on.
And they're spending a lot of money. They pass, or trying to pass, to do a multi-million-dollar project on PFAS.
Right.
One of the things, there are 185 cities and towns in the state of Massachusetts that have PFAS. There's only 2 towns that have been aggressive in handling PFAS, and that's Mansfield and North Attleboro. This board should take a lot of pride in what they've done. I'm a relatively newcomer on the board, okay? And they've been dealing with this issue for years, okay? They have worked hard. They've worked, they spent $12 million on correcting the 2 wells, and they were aggressive in doing it. I'm very happy to see so many people here to hear this, okay? Because one of the frustrating things is this gentleman, Mr. Hollowell, has come before the council at least 6 or 7 times to talk about the condition of the PFAS in the town. Board of Public Works has our meetings. You are more than welcome, Mr. Gould, to come to our meetings and ask us all the questions you want to ask. Instead of going on social media
am I welcome
and
to do it at my
bashing the
meetings?
Board of Public Works because you think the
Is it
kiosk
okay
was
to talk to the public about the number 1 issue that's important to them in our meetings?
Point of order.
Let's not,
Point of order, please. Mr.
Dan has
Chair.
my gavel.
Thank you.
All I'm saying is the Board of Public Works is open. If you have questions, you can come to our meetings. If you want to call up and you want to talk, to Mark, or you want to talk to board members, we're more than happy to answer any of the questions that you have. Okay? Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Donahue. Are there any other questions or comments from board members on this? Council members? Mr. Gould?
Thank you. I'll try to keep it brief. So approximately how long till Hillman's done?
Assuming that there's no supply chain issues, if we put it out to bid in September, they start construction in November, and it would probably be done by the following September or October, if everything goes well. There are, when we did the McEwen, Adamsdale had a ton of issues just because of supply chains. McEwen, we had issues with getting our SCADA people back in because all of our stuff interacts with each other, and that was a little bit of a delay. We thought the construction time was going to be done in October, November, and we ended up having about a month and a half where we were chasing gremlins on the SCADA, and we didn't want to put it fully online with the system in place until everything was doing what it was supposed to be doing. So that ended up dragging out about 2 more months. But sometime in, fall to early winter 2026.
Roughly a year and a half. And then we'll start whiting straight and same.
We'll start whiting design once we're out to bid, or once we've awarded the contract for that. It's a lot on the plate to be doing multiple things at once.
Okay, so you do the construction and the design at the same time.
Right, that's what we did with Adamsdale and McEwen.
Okay. So just briefly, I just do want to express frustration at the water supervisor position. We got to get that filled. It's been years.
It is filled. I have a water superintendent.
I thought I saw it posted yesterday, no?
It is posted. He would like to retire. So he is literally, and I will say this to everyone, the smartest cracker I know. But he's getting older. And so we have, a license. I'm a D4, but he's a T4, D4. He can do SCADA. He can do everything. But that's what we're looking for. And it is extremely hard to find, as is with wastewater. I have a couple positions out in wastewater, and we are like mining through schools to try and find people. So we are working on that, and then at least try to have a mentor program.
We should have talked to the school people when they were here. Just briefly about the water kiosk. I've received many messages like this one. I told this resident I'd read their message. It says, "To whom it may concern, my family and I have lived in this town for 5 years and cherish the 2 properties we own here. One of the key reasons we decided to stay and build our future in North Attleboro was the water kiosk. While it may seem like a small factor, it has been essential to us. Through 3 pregnancies, access to clean filtered water has been crucial for our family's well-being. With the water supply still between 4 and 20 PPT, we still don't feel comfortable, especially with my wife currently pregnant and our young child at home. Purchasing water adds financial strain. We respectfully ask you to consider removing the kiosk. Sincerely, the Allen family." I've received many of these types messages. I have reached out about potentially finding funding to restore the kiosk. I know it's not an ideal situation. It keeps breaking.
Yeah, we'll put it at town hall.
Is there any update?
No, so this is one of the concerns that I have is, we follow DEP and EPA guidelines. DEP and EPA look at this stuff exhaustively. They've been looking at this since 2015, and they're saying over a lifetime, it's a concern. And the 20 parts per trillion was literally the DEP just throwing it out there and saying, all right, EPA's at 70 parts per trillion. Literally, a year and a half ago, EPA was at 70. And Mass DEP, trying to be a good judge, said we're going to go 2.5 times below that, or 3, whatever that is, below that, and came out at 20, honestly thinking EPA is never going to touch it. And then EPA went down to 4. There are 35 states in this country who have never tested for PFAS. 35 states who aren't going to test until January 2027. So I understand people have concerns. I'm afraid of kangaroos. It's a thing. They are.
Do kangaroos cost us $30 million in the next 3 years?
No, but we have clean drinking water. We have clean drinking water, and we've been extremely proactive in what we've been doing. And people have, most of the people, when I was out getting ready to take the kiosk down, almost every person, actually no, I think every person that I talked to that was out there said they just like it because it tastes better. They don't like it because I got a chlorine taste. Guess what? I can put chlorine in the water. And if you're closer to one of my treatment plants, which I'm at, your chlorine's at 1 part per million. And as it dissipates out in the system, it gets down to about 0.2. That's where we have to have it in order to effectively kill pathogens. But I understand people's fear. If I'm, I remember having a kid, I drove 15 miles an hour home with my first baby. Second one, Window's open. But I do understand it, but it's an irrational fear. The United States government, who are the ones who told you it's bad, are telling you it's fine.
I drink the water. It's just what people are telling me.
No, I know.
And it's not a few.
And I would ask them to call me, and I will talk to them directly, probably for 35 minutes. And usually they're trying to get off the phone.
I'll send them to you. Just,
I think,
Mr. Thompson,
just to
please.
say one thing, we're not talking about parts per thousand, parts per million, we're talking parts per trillion. I mean, just think about that number for a second. It'd take me at least 2 years to count that high. But the point is, it is so minute and is so, small that if it was going to affect everybody, it would have affected all of us. I grew up in this town too, and I grew up right down on West Street. So I was right near all the stuff back then. And, and if it didn't, I'm still here, 71 years old, I made it, but, I don't want people to be so afraid of this until you look at, what we're talking about. I mean, it's not millions we're talking about trillions of pots. And it's, it's so, it's significant, but it's not so significant that you need to worry about whether or not you're going to wake up in the morning or anything, because it's not. And in North Attleboro, our wells have always been very good. We've always taken care of them. I have served, on several boards and committees over the past 30-some-odd years. And this is the one thing that the town of North Attleboro has always been very, very hard on, and that's to maintain, the supplies of water and everything that we produce in this town, to make sure that the residents of this town, are safe, and, we get some good water and mix it with some good stuff.
I'll add to that what Mike says. Our water rate is the second lowest out of the 15 surrounding towns.
Yeah. I think Mansfield and North Attleboro are the only two that have met the standards in the entire state.
If I could add one more thing, for the residents who still just don't believe me, or the state, or the federal government, as I mentioned, we do have a website. On our website, it's way up the top where it says "found here," and it's also down below. It's the first sentence that I have up there. The results of the study can be found here, and you can go on that and find, and I'll call them out. And interestingly, there's 3 that meet the EPA's new guideline of non-detect. And interesting, one of them is a 3M product, which are the ones who caused this problem, and we're suing them. But 3M has a product. There's a product called Zero Water. That's the one that I was talking about. It's $33 on Amazon, and it's a 5-part filtration system, and that actually went down to non-detect in their testing. So for people who, and again, I got a Brita filter at home. I don't use it, but my wife and kids love it. But, like I said, there's a lot of other things in drinking water that we don't test for. Filters aren't bad. I 100%, if people are concerned about it for other reasons, people don't like the chlorine in the water, or the taste of chlorine in the water, filters are great, but they're a decision. If I could have got away with this by buying everyone a $33 filter, we would have done 3 years ago.
Mr. Hollowell, so just so I'm clear, our blended water now as a town is in compliance with Mass DEP regulations.
Correct.
Correct. Thank you. When are the federal PFAS regulations going into effect?
We have to be compliant by 2029.
Okay, and it's 2025 now, so we have 4 years. Are we on pace to be compliant by 2029?
We will be compliant.
So we are compliant with the Massachusetts regulation today.
Yep.
We will be compliant with the federal regulation by 2029.
Yeah, if I could just say.
That's really what I think all I need to hear.
Right, if I could just say briefly, so if we were in violation of the federal regulation, we would get a notice of noncompliance. I mentioned before about my wastewater plant. The day I got my permit back in 2008, along with it was a notice of noncompliance. You're not complying, and you have to do this now, or we could have sued them. But we're not non-compliant with the drinking water. They're just saying there's a new standard. We're giving you a timeline to implement that standard,
Yeah.
all drinking water suppliers. So we are not in compliance. There's just a new standard that we have 5 years to.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you for clarifying that.
Mark, I have a question
Mr.
for
Mr.
you.
Tony, one last, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
So how frequently do you guys meet as a board?
Couple times a month.
Couple times.
Twice a month, just like us, so folks can always go to your meetings, catch them on
Absolutely.
TV, go to the
Absolutely.
website. There's a board that was elected to focus on the water. So I would encourage folks to reach out to these guys if you have questions on this sort of stuff in the future. That's their job. Thank you, sorry, Tony.
Come on down, we're lonely sometimes.
Yeah. Mark, just clarification, EPA does not require to have a water kiosk, right?
No, there is no notification requirements, or there are no sensitive subgroups called out in the EPA's regulation. And DEP is enacting the EPA's regulation, so they'll piggyback on top of that. So it'll be a state regulation when it comes to it. But again, it's 5 years before that's enacted.
Okay.
4.5 now.
Yeah, final questions. Mr. Gould.
And in closing, I think we've done great, and I think that there is more work to do. I'd prefer not to settle for the minimum notification standards. I'd prefer to keep tabs on it. Water is really important to people, and rightfully so. We're leading the way. We shouldn't be shy about speaking about this. I'm not trying to step on the Public Works Board's toes. You guys do wonderful work. I've seen some of your meetings. I probably will attend some. I also think it's within the governing body of the town, within our purview, to keep tabs on it. And I'd suggest that we should have a clear report that we can point to every quarter and an update every quarter. I know things get hectic at DPW. You got a lot to do. And this would keep us on track if we did it, say, January, every 3 months. And if anyone's interested, I'd make a motion.
You post that every month, right?
Yeah, as I noted, I do post monthly.
It's on the website.
On the website.
There's the report.
All of them are on the website.
Every month.
Monthly.
Every month,
Karen,
it's
can you
sitting right
scroll
there.
down to the bottom, please?
No 3 months needed.
Yeah, I've,
Up there's their reports.
I've been there.
Annual water reports, quarterly. Oh, wow.
they're not very easy to understand. You want to open one of them?
No.
I don't think that's necessary.
I don't think I do.
I think Mr. Hollowell was here 6 weeks ago? Was it 6 weeks ago?
January 13th.
January 13th to give us an update on this exact subject.
Can I just say something?
Mr. Bogan, yeah, please, let's stick with the rules of order.
So, I think you've done an amazing job. I think the amount of information on that website alone is wonderful. And what I'm hearing from everyone here is that with the twice-a-month meetings, with the numerous times we've talked about it in these meetings, the website, I've seen it notated on the digital screen. I think, especially in the people sitting here, when people do come to us and they are concerned, justifiably so, I have an autoimmune disease. When this came out, it scared me. But the first thing I did was ask questions. And I think if someone's going to come to me and ask a question and I don't know the answer, I'm going to point them to the open door policy over here with the experts that know it so that you can answer it. And nothing spreads faster than word of mouth. And information will do the same. So I would encourage anyone, if you don't know the answers, then point them in the direction to either the website or the people that know it best. Thank you.
I'd love to move on, if you guys are. You guys adjourned your meeting.
Oh, do we have to
No, we didn't adjourn, we just closed the hearing.
Here, you close
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so moved.
Rinaldi, yes.
Can't believe you guys don't want to stay longer.
I thought everyone was here for the scouts.
Thank you, gentlemen, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.